Welcome to my channel. I'm Elizabeth Liz Muschett, and today is the astrology forecast for October of 2025. And my guest and fellow astrologer is Justin Elzie Crockett. Welcome, Justin. How are you today?
Hey, good. Thank you, Liz. I'm excited to talk about this month. This is my favorite time of year.
Exactly. I love it too. It's beautiful. Okay, so Justin is an archetypal and Jyotish astrologer, teacher, author, and seer. The best way to contact Justin is justin.elzie@gmail.com. I'm an astrologer, author, and intuitive, and you can reach me at my website, alightpath.com. And we're in the month of October, and I took this picture a few days ago on my deck of a spider web and the lake in the background, and like it's season is changing.
Right.
And we're in the air element, which is a lot about communication. The cardinal modality is a good time to begin things, and each season we begin different things. The ruling planet is Venus. The mantra is relate. Keywords are balance, harmony, diplomat, cooperation, and a caution would be indecisive. And would you like to add anything to that, Justin?
Well, yeah, I looking at the chart at midnight on the 1st, we move into this month also with the moon in a cardinal sign. It's in Capricorn. And the ascendant at midnight is Cancer. So it's definitely a good cardinal month, I would say.
Well, thank you. And I'll let you tell us some favorable activities for this month.
Yeah, so what I look at as a Vedic or Jyotish astrologer is what lunar mansions the sun is during the month, and it kind of gives us a insight into some favorable activities that are really supported. The lunar mansions for this month are Hasta, Chitra, and Swati. And so here are some favorable activities in relation to those lunar mansions. Anything to do with skills with your hands this month, like doing crafts, home repairs, decorating. And one of the reasons is this because the word hasta means hand in Sanskrit. And so it's related to the hand. And so this is a good month to do any type of crafts. And of course, this is a great month for decorating. Everybody's getting ready for the holidays. It's also a good month for organizing. And we are in the month of Libra. So it's a business matters requiring tact as well, because, Libra has the energy about tact and manners and sociability. I must also say this is a great month for socializing and social events because Libra is the sign of relationship. It's a good month for marriage. And as you pointed out, it's an air sign, so it's a good month for writing, speaking, and learning as well. Anything to do with magic and spiritual practices and meditation. So these are some. I mean, there's other ones, but these are really kind of higher on the list of really good activities that are favorable this month.
Well, that sounds fantastic. And I'm already doing a little bit more socialization than I have been the past few years. Kind of from post pandemic, it's like you get kind of used to being in your little routine, and it's like
Right.
going out and doing more things, and I'm enjoying it. So here's that chart that you were mentioning for October 1st here in Seattle. The moon phase is in the first quarter phase. The moon's in Capricorn at 23 degrees, a cardinal sign. The ascendant, like you said, Cancer is a cardinal sign, and the midheaven is at 22 Pisces. Um, and so that first quarter phase that the moon's in, it's like, to me, I always think of it, it's a time to make adjustments and reevaluate and continue on with projects. Would you like to say anything else about this chart?
Well, and I love that Jupiter is about ready to rise here. And we're going to talk a little bit about Jupiter as we get into the series, I know, for this month.
So, out of bounds this month, again, it's about the declination of a planet exceeding 23 degrees and 27 minutes north or south. So, it's out of the bounds of the sun, and that planet acts on their own. And the moon will be out of bounds from October 7th through the 12th. and the 20th through the 24th. And Hygeia is out of bounds for quite some time, from June of 25 until the middle of February of 26. And Pluto is in a long out of bounds period also from August 29th of this year to November 23rd, 2025. Would you like to say anything about this, Justin?
No, I think you got it covered.
And then planets that are ingressing or moving into new signs this month. On the 1st, we have Juno, an asteroid, moves into Sagittarius. On the 6th, Mercury moves into Scorpio. On the 13th, Venus moves into Libra. On the 22nd, we have Neptune is retrograde, so it will re-enter Pisces, so it's backing into Pisces. And also on that day, the sun will move into Scorpio. And then on the 29th, Mercury moves into Sagittarius, so basically covering 3 signs this month. Mercury's pretty fast right now.
Yeah. And the reason I like that we put Juno on there, because Juno representing marriage or relationships. And so generally, I don't know what you found, but I found that when a person has, if you could go back to that slide, because
sorry.
that's okay. I need to see this slide so I don't get off track here. Okay, so because Juno, I find that people that have Juno and Sagittarius need a little bit of fun and freedom in their relationships. So again, that's as Juno moves into Sagittarius, I think it's a good time for people to take trips with their loved ones and their friends, and it's a good time for retreats with your loved one. And of course, Mercury moving into Ingress into Scorpio, well, then that's a little bit more, I think, can be challenging with communications a little bit. I mean, it's a much more direct and to the point, but also a good month for meditation with Mercury moving into Scorpio, and writing, and paying attention to emotions in our communications, because it's definitely that. And then, of course, Venus is happy in Libra, rules Libra. So I think that's, again, really positive for relationships. The Neptune going back into Pisces, I'd be curious what you think about that one. I mean, it's I think the whole collective is kind of reassessing reality a little bit now. And then, of course, at the end of the month, Mercury going into Sagittarius, I think, again, it's a good month for writing and lyric writing with that. Mercury and Sag is definitely free-spirited thinking. So what do you think about anything I talked about these ingresses?
Well, that Mercury going into Scorpio, it's like you could bury what like push it down and not express it, but you could also express things maybe too quickly and too honestly that's too much for other people. So it's like, breathe and, think about how possibly you could express it in a kinder way, perhaps.
Right.
And Neptune re-entering Pisces, I always think of the last time that a planet retrogrades back into a sign, it's going back to just finish up what little things that it needed to finish up. So, it can be about, Pisces is about philosophy and religion. And we've certainly had some interesting things in the news about different religions and belief systems for that matter. And so
Right.
there's like this tug of war, so of how that's going to be and what our vision is for that. And yes, I like the Mercury in Sagittarius. Oh, and I was also going to mention Juno in Sagittarius. Even if you don't have the time to take a long trip or something, you could go for a walk in the woods, or like we live here in the Pacific Northwest, so pretty much the ocean and the mountains, everything's within approximately 2 hours or less. So even doing something that's just an hour or two from where you live, that's maybe a little different, adventurous. Try something new and different, maybe.
Right. Absolutely.
So planets stationing retrograde or direct this month. We have on the 4th, Pallas Athena, which is an asteroid, stationing direct at 6 degrees Aquarius. On the 13th, Pluto will station direct at 1 degree Aquarius. And Hygeia will station retrograde on the 29th at 7 degrees of Cancer. Any comments on these?
Yeah, I think it's something to point out here that we were just talking about Hygeia being out of bounds, and then it's going to be retrograde near the end of the month, and we're going to also point that out because it's actually playing a prominent role this month with some aspects to a couple of the other planets. So Hygeia is one to watch.
Well, and we'll be coming back with a show later in the month on Hygeia. Justin and I will, so our audience can look forward to that.
Yeah.
And Pluto's, to me, even though it's a dwarf planet now, it's still a major planet. When planets station direct or retrograde, the energy around that is a little bit more, it's like a mild windstorm, I think of, or the waves kind of churning up. It's not a huge storm, but it's a little bit chaotic or stormy. So this month we have 3 planets changing signs. So, a week before and a week after. So that almost covers the whole month. So things can be just a little bit off.
Right.
So we're going to talk about October 1st through the 6th. And the chart that we're using for this is October 5th in Seattle. And I'll just read off the aspects and then we'll talk about a few of them. On the 1st, Mercury will square Jupiter. And as a reminder, Mars is still in orb of being square to Pluto. It's not exact, but it's still an orb. And the Sun is square Hygeia. On the 4th, Mercury is quincunx to Saturn. On the 6th, we have the full moon. Mercury enters Scorpio. Mercury is trine Hygeia, and Mercury is quincunx Neptune. So Mercury is very active the first week of October, but I'll let Justin start us off.
Yeah, so that Mercury square Jupiter, I'd be curious what you think about that. Usually, because we see Mercury here is still in Libra, it hasn't gotten to Scorpio just yet, but it's squaring Jupiter between that Libra and Jupiter in Cancer. So there could be, this to me sort of brings some imbalance in decision making, because Mercury and Libra can sometimes be a little indecisive. So there could be maybe some imbalance between what we emotionally want to accomplish and then our decision making. So there can be an imbalance. And so it's also with our communications, paying attention. I'm going to say this a lot this month, paying attention to our emotions and our communications, because as you said, Mercury's very prominent this month. It goes from Libra into Scorpio, then into Sag. So it's making a lot of aspects this month. So it's really, I think, right at the beginning of the month here, because it's squaring Jupiter in Cancer, it's again could be some difficult communications in family, but it's all about being fair, balanced.
Right. And maybe the family has different opinions of how something could be addressed. And it could be like one person wants to eat a different style. I mean, it can be food, it can be nurturing, it can be how are we going to handle this situation. So I
Right.
agree with that.
And at the same time, the sun is squaring Hygeia too there. So it there can be a personalization aspect of this, and maybe some hurt feelings or hurt emotions. So it's really, as we move into this month, just be aware of how we communicate to make sure that that it's loving and kind.
Well, and that's all in cardinal signs. So I would say that it's an opportunity to make a positive change in whatever the conflict or disagreement could be.
Right. And the fact that then Mercury is imbalanced with Saturn, quincunx Saturn, then again it's just, I think, again, just asking us to pay attention to that. And then at the end of the month it trines Hygeia, so and then it quincunxes Neptune again. It's just highlighting our communications, our emotions, and how it's coming across emotionally.
Right, because with that Mercury trying to Hygeia, that is an opportunity to make positive changes and do some healing.
Yeah.
So you ready to go to the next slide?
Yep.
So here's the Aries full moon, and we're just going to briefly talk about the moon aspects because Justin and I will be back within a week to talk about the Aries full moon, and that happens at 14 degrees Aries. The moon is conjunct Ceres, an asteroid, trine Vesta, an asteroid, opposite the sun, semi-square Uranus, quincunx the south node, and sesquiquadrate Juno, which is an asteroid. So what do you think of all these aspects with the full moon?
Well, again, I think it's because it's really bringing in the I think because Juno's and Mars is prominent there. I think it's again just highlighting everything we've talked about. I'd be curious what you think about this initially.
Well, since Juno, Vesta, and Ceres, which are all asteroids, it's bringing in a feminine aspect. So an opportunity to maybe help rebalance the masculine feminine. And I'm not talking about women versus men. I'm just talking about the masculine and feminine principle of all of us in our lives and everything. So to me, that's just some rebalancing that it's asking us, and it's an opportunity to work on that.
I agree, and speaking of which, because this moon is so close to Eris, and it's almost and Mars is across the way there. I think that again, it's really kind of important to pay attention to how we are asserting ourselves in communications and communicating. But I agree with the balancing the masculine and the feminine there, especially with Eris and Mars being prominent across from one another there.
And then with aspecting the south node, it could be asking us, what do we keep and what do we release? And, that kind of keeps coming up. And we'll be back to talk about this more in depth. So,
yeah.
Anything else you want to say, or we'll go on to the next slide?
No, I think that's it.
So then we're going to look at October 7th through the 14th. We have Mercury quincunx Uranus, and Mercury is square Pluto. On the 8th, Venus is sextile Jupiter and semi-square Mars. On the 9th, Venus is quincunx Chiron. The 11th, Venus is opposite Saturn. The 13th, Pluto is stations direct. Venus moves into Libra, and Venus is opposite Neptune. And on the 14th, Venus is trine Uranus and Pluto. So this week, Venus is super prominent.
Yeah. So what do you think stands out to you?
What stands out? Oh my goodness. Well, Venus, and she's making an opposition to Saturn and Neptune. She's making a trine to Uranus, a sextile to Jupiter, and a trine to Pluto. So even though there are some challenging or changing aspects, there's also some supportive aspects there. So, like, and it's at 0, Venus is at 0 starting this week in Libra. So, some readjustments and like really getting in touch with our personal values, our personal ideas, our personal relationships, or how we relate to others. It's like a time, okay, how do I want to make some changes with that?
Yeah, I agree, and because Venus is also our affections within the relationships. Venus and Libra really strives for, if a person has Venus and Libra, they can associate affections with social manners, kindness, and balance in relationship, and so this could be the time where Venus is asking us to look at power structures in our relationship. Is it balanced? Are we doing all the work, or is our partner doing all the work, right, as far as affections? And also, it's an air sign, as you pointed out before. So there's a thing around communications and fairness or unfairness. So this could be the time when we make some adjustments in our relationships, because Venus is asking us to bring. It's also, if you're not in a relationship, if it's right in the way it's playing out in your chart, this could be a good time for a relationship. Yeah.
Well, and just making the changes that are necessary with yourself to create that, and saying, okay, and knowing what kind of relationship you want and how committed you want to be. So,
Right. And the Mercury squaring Pluto, and then it's in conjunct or quincunx Uranus there. Definitely this is a great month for reassessing your ideas or your thinking, I think. That brings in some changes with our communications and our thinking, and so um, highlights how we communicate, but also a good month to reassess some ideas and to change our thinking in a way.
and then that Venus quincunx to Chiron, I would say that, our wound could show itself to us, and it's a good time to like work on bringing healing to that.
Yeah, and it's also engaging Eris there too a little bit too.
Mhm.
So there could be some, and not to bring in the negative, but this could be the month where we really realize that we're not being valued in our relationships with affection. There with Chiron and Eris being quincunx Venus there.
Exactly. So anything else you want to say about this week?
No, I do like that Pluto goes direct though. I'm happy about that.
Yes, yes. Okay, October 15th through the 22nd. On the 16th, we have Sun square Jupiter and Sun opposite Chiron. On the 19th, we have Sun quincunx Saturn, Mercury conjunct Mars, Mars trine Saturn, Mercury and Mars trine Jupiter. On the 22nd, we have the Sun moving into Scorpio, Neptune re-entering Pisces, and the Sun quincunx Neptune. So this week we have quite a bit of Mars action happening.
Yeah, and it is the beginning of this grand trine with Mars, Jupiter, and Saturn. Um, and I think it's something to pay attention to. It's kind of important. I kind of think that Mars Mercury is sort of a war type of indicator, and definitely how we're speaking about war, conflict, and the fact that it's a grand trine with Saturn and Jupiter. I think it's just a month to pay attention to our emotions. What do you and also it's a great time to teach a class, and to possibly take a trip with the family. Just thinking of all the aspects of that there. What do you think about that?
Well, I like what you said, and then the Sun square that Jupiter and opposite that Chiron. Um, I would just say take caution this week to how you communicate what you're starting, because they're all cardinals in cardinal signs. Because Jupiter can expand and make it bigger, and so it could be easy to wound somebody, but it's also the wounds can be shown to us. So it's like, let's try to use that energy to bring some healing to things. What do you think?
Yeah, I agree. I agree. And I might also point out that wait. I know this chart's from the 13th. This is just before the new moon in Libra, and I was thinking about this earlier. That with the prominence of Aries and Libra so much this month, that it may be some completion of something we did last year with relationship, because the nodes were in Libra and Aries last year. So this is an important inflection point about relationships, that something that could have started last year. But yeah, that's all I would say.
Okay. And then we'll go to the Libra new moon at 28 degrees. And the moon's aspects are the moon's conjunct the sun, square Jupiter and Pluto, and quincunx Saturn, Uranus, Neptune, and Sedna, and opposite Chiron and Eris. So it's forming a grand cardinal cross this week, or at this new moon. So that'll be really interesting. That cardinal energy, pulling in the four different directions. So maybe what one wants to initiate could be not sure because you have too many ideas or too many obligations pulling at you or demands, or you just can't decide what to go through with, but it's like just make a decision and go with one.
Right. That whole Jupiter, the Jupiter Pluto aspect there, along with the sun and moon being a new beginning of something. This could also mean the beginning of a lot of things that involves family, involves institutions, that involve families or teaching. And so, yeah, I think this is a new moon that really is bringing in some energy of starting something new in a bigger group or within the family.
Well, and then with those quincunxes pointing to that sun and moon from Uranus and Sedna and Neptune and Saturn, that's a lot of focused energy on that sun and moon. So I would say that this is going to be a powerful new moon to work
I
with.
agree. I totally agree with you on that. And it could be a great time to start something, but it could bring a lot of change. Let's just put it that way with Pluto, Jupiter, and Chiron and Eris being involved, and then Uranus and Neptune as well.
Well, and Justin and I will be on Talk Cosmos talking about the new moon with archetypal symbols in other ways. And then I will be having a new moon show with Madam Simon. So we'll be coming back and talking about this later on in the month. And so to end up the month, October 23rd through the 31st, but I can't remember, there's only 30 days in this month and I made a mistake, but
No, there's 31. There's 31.
okay.
It's Halloween.
Okay.
Samhain.
Awesome. On the 23rd, we have Sun quincunx Uranus. On the 24th, we have Sun square Pluto, Mercury quincunx Chiron, and Mercury is trine to Jupiter. On the 25th, we have Mercury trine Saturn. On the 27th, Mars is quincunx Chiron. On the 29th, Mercury is trine Neptune, enters Sagittarius, and opposes Uranus. Mars is trine Saturn and Jupiter. Hygeia stations retrograde, and on the 30th, Mercury is sextile to Pluto. So in this time period, Mercury and what other one was Mars are pretty active in this one. So each week we kind of have
As
different
well.
planets that are prominent, so to speak.
Right. Well, so what jumps out to with you this month that really says this is the big, or this week? What jumps out with you that's the big thing to pay attention to?
Well, I'm going to say that grand trine between Mars, Mercury, Jupiter, and Saturn and Neptune. And so it's like this energy of pretty much a water grand trine. So emotions could run a little high, but then the emotions could be moving forward in a positive manner also. So
Yeah.
maybe things will speed up a little bit then. But
Well, and it's important to note. I know we didn't put it on the slide, but we are getting close to halfway through this nodal cycle with Uranus and I mean with Pisces and Virgo. We're getting close to the midpoint of that, halfway through that cycle. So I think this end of the month here, or this end of the year coming up, there we have a lot happening that's bringing about changes emotionally within the collective. And I think with Jupiter being in Cancer, this could be the time when it's a good month to have things with family, as we mentioned before, and some favorable activities, but doing socializing with family and with Mercury moving into Sagittarius here near the end of the month, it's a good time for any type of Halloween activities or socializing or parties.
exactly. And then we have a few quincunxes here, Sun to Uranus, and then the Chiron Eris to that Mercury and Mars also. So, around communication and healing again, and how we feel like what justifies, how am I being treated how I want to be treated, or I'm not going to accept that anymore, and something has to change.
Right. Yeah, really watch the communications.
Exactly.
Because when Mars gets involved with Mercury, that it becomes a little bit more direct and has to be a little bit more attentive to those emotions.
So, do you have a takeaway for the month? Beyond what you said, what was good activities?
Well, I think it's a good month to focus on our communications, and a good month to start a new book or some new writing or learning something, especially with Mars conjuncting Mercury. Boy, that's powerful. That's like a new beginning in some ways with writing, or if you want to start a blog project or podcast, this is a good month to do it. Definitely.
Well, Justin, I want to thank you for joining me today, and I want to thank our audience that has joined live. We appreciate you and all those that come back and watch at a later time. And Justin and I do consultations in person and on Zoom. We each have newsletters, YouTube, and social channels. So join us on any of those that you like. We appreciate your support. And Justin, I'll let you tell about your slide here.
Yeah, so the best way to get a hold of me really is through my email at justin.elzie@gmail.com. And I just encourage you to check out my YouTube channel.
And there's a lot of other shows that I have. The Astrology Star Sisters have a number of shows. There's quite a bit in the archives, and each week we have new shows, so we appreciate you joining us. Like I said before, Justin and I will be on Talk Cosmos on the Archetypal Symbols panel on October 19th at 1 p.m. Pacific Daylight Time. You can stop by my channel or Justin's and watch it live, or come back and watch it at a later date. And I want to thank Astro Peregrine Software, our sponsor. And to find out more about their astrology software program for Mac and Windows, you can go to astroperegrine.com. So we're going to sign off for now, and we'll see you all next time. Bye for now. Bye, Justin.
Bye.